Hey there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting and other crafts. This is episode 13. I'm Nicole, and you can find me as profpurl on Instagram and Ravelry, and there's an email for this podcast, professorpurlpodcast@gmail.com, and there's a Ravelry group, Professor Purl Podcast. All notes will be in the description bar below with links and things to the yarn and patterns that I talk about. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for returning and watching. I'm a math education professor that lives here in the Pacific Northwest, and I am recording this from my home in Oregon, where I live with my husband Kyle and my 4-year-old Matilda. Today I'm wearing a sweater I've made that I have shown on one of my earlier podcasts, I'm sure, because it's a well-loved, well-worn sweater, which is the Misurina Tea by Caitlin Hunter from Boylan Knits. And I just love this sweater. I knit this out of Madelinetosh singles, so like a single ply yarn. And this is Candlewick, and this is Cousteau, I think. Anyway, this is the Misurina Tea, and it has cables, lace, and color work. And it was so fun to make, and you can pick any of they had an eyelet option for the body, or this kind of purl bump option. I chose the purl bump option. And I get a lot of wear out of short sleeve sweaters because one way I style them is by wearing it like this with a cardigan over if my arms get cold. So I get an extra knits on knits kind of extra warmth. The other way I wear it is by wearing a shirt underneath it, like a denim shirt or a button-up shirt or just a turtleneck, and I think that looks really cool. And I also really like the short sleeve option because particularly here in the Pacific Northwest, in the same day I can feel cold and hot, and it's nice to just be able to layer. And so I love short sleeve shirts. And so I have a winner to announce for a giveaway. Just want to mention this right away so you don't have to wait until the end and maybe miss it. I interviewed Kelly from Mouton Rouge Knittery, which is a yarn store in Illinois, in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, and she donated these purl strings, which are really long, and these ones are for a thicker sweater, like a worsted or bulky or chunky sweater. So this is the shorter piece. There's a piece that's 2 or 3 times the size. Let's see here. Let's see here. It said 2 or 3 times the size, so we'll have to see here. Is it 2 or 3? Looks like it's about 2.5 times the size. So anyway, you can see it's quite long. So anyway, this is the giveaway. There was 26 comments on the video that said me playing Mouton Rouge. So I used a random number generator and then picked the comment, and it was Lisa B from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if you're watching this, send me an email at professorpurlpodcast. I have another giveaway for this episode, and I'm going to save it for a little bit further down in the dream knitting section because I think it fits in there better, but it's really epic. Maybe the coolest giveaway that I've had on this channel, I think. There are no finished objects this episode from me. I have 4 whips, which I will share, but before I share the whips, I will share some finished objects that are not from me, but from my mom. So about 3 weeks ago, my mom mailed Matilda a pair of socks that she made. And I had them the last episode, but I was not able to show them because they were dirty because she wore them, which is a great sign. These are, the pattern is the DRK Everyday Sock from Andrea Mowry, which is a toe-up sock. And you can see they look a little goofy, like really skinny, but that's because it's ribbing, so it sucks in, which creates like a really well-fitting sock. These socks fit Matilda just right, like no room to grow, like kind of little ankle socks. And so when Matilda was wearing them and I told my mom they just fit her with no room to grow, I think my mom was excited and decided to make her another pair, which came in the mail this weekend. And so these ones are a little bit longer than the other ones. She had told Matilda she would make her another pair, but then when she mentioned it was pink, Matilda, being opinionated as she is, did not like that. And so my mom added some purple on the top. But you could see why my mom's head did the pink, because she sent me a pair of socks, which is super nice. And I haven't worn them. I saved them so I could show here. My mom had them packaged up cute, but Matilda opened them up and they're not packaged cute anymore. But the remnants of the cute packaging include, my mom puts these little like stitch markers in here. So this is like 2022 and there's like a little penguin. Anyway, so these match Matilda, which is so fun, but Matilda said purple. I think my mom said this, so these are all the DRK Andrea Mowry Everyday Sock. And I think my mom said she's made 9 of these socks. She's been like cranking them out. I was excited because a lot of the socks that my mom makes me are kind of loose. And so it was like really nice to have like a snug fitting sock. And so I think it's like the best pair, the best fitting socks I've gotten from my mom. So that's like really exciting. And I'm not much of a toe-up sock knitter. I've only knit 2 pairs of toe-up socks, but it makes me feel like trying them because every single one of my toe-up socks has fit me really well now. Like, oh, I'm actually wearing another pair of toe-up socks right now. They're these pencil ones, and they're from Purl and Postulates. And I actually like messaged Purl, I can't remember her first name now, but I messaged her and I was like, your sock pattern, these pencil socks are like the best fitting pair of socks I have. And that was 4 of these came in the mail. So oh, the last thing. I think that this colorway is from Frankie Gray Fibres, from Jody from the Grocery Girls Dyes Yarns. I think this is Frankie Gray Fibres. And I know this purple's from a UK dyer that my mom follows. I don't remember the name. I think it says Botanical in it. I'll ask her and link it below. But really cute colorways. So that's, I mean, really nice to receive that as a gift. I'm super thankful. And I was kind of laughing because I had no FOs to show this episode. And I was like, well, looks like I do now, but I didn't make them though. Well, I've got 4 whips, and 3 out of 4 of the whips are like test knitting. And so clearly last week I said I was a monotonous knitter, and I really made some huge progress on a sweater, and I thought I was going to be a monotonous knitter again, and that is not happening. That's okay. So I'll show you my Souffle Tea, which is the first sweater test knit I've ever done. And it is, the Souffle Tea is by Laura from Penrose Knits, and it is a gorgeous design. It's been a delight to participate in this test knit. I would even go so far to say that it's been inspiring and joyful. Like, not to sound cheesy, but the test knit group showed me that like test knitting is about community. Like, yes, you're making feedback to the pattern, and yes, you're helping the designer make the pattern better, but also you're making friends, and that's really cool. And I just have really enjoyed the community around this test knit. It's like a mini knit along, and then you're meeting new people across the world. How cool? How cool is that? And then you're making something beautiful. Okay, so last time I showed this on the podcast, I was just in the hem and I had started the hem. And so since I last podcasted, I finished the hem. You can see that. It's a folded hem. There's several ways to do a folded hem. Like, some garments start with a hem, so you might do like a provisional cast on and then kind of knit into the stitches, which is quite nice. Or when you're ending, you can kind of knit into the stitches as well, or you can sew it. From the test knitting group, it looked like people who sewed it had a lot of control over how tight it was, because some people struggled with making their hem too tight. I did not sew it, and mine did not turn out tight. Mine fits just lovely. I am a loose knitter in general, and I also went up a couple needle sizes to do the folded hem, so that is also probably why I didn't have issues. And after I podcasted, I also did this applied I-cord edging here at the top. And I really like how with the variegated yarn, it's like how that looks on the I-cord. Like, I really like that a lot. I think that's a fun detail. It has a keyhole back. And so I need to find a really special button. I don't want to just put a plain white button. I want it to be a really pretty button, because this is a really pretty sweater, so it needs an epic button. And then I knit the ruffle. And I actually did the ruffle during the Rosé yarn crawl, like as my car knitting, my restaurant knitting. And it's only a few rows. I won't give away how many rows it is. But they're long rows because you're going around your body. And then in addition to going around your body, you're doubling your stitches to create the extra fabric for the ruffle. And so they're long rows, but I enjoyed them. And one of the things I shared, I think either in my vlog or my haul, I shared that while constructing this, because you double every stitch on the, basically you have, let's say you have 20 stitches. It's way more than 20 stitches. And then you're doubling those stitches, so those 20 stitches become 40 stitches. And now let's say you're doubling 40 stitches, so those 40 stitches become 80 stitches. And because you're doubling it, which means basically this, so your stitch count is doubling, which means basically what you're doing is you're creating this really interesting surface that doesn't lay flat. And like mathematically, this is called a hyperbolic surface. And if you want to see that, I'll provide a link below, but I really never thought about ruffles as a hyperbolic surface until I constructed it and I was doubling. Like, so basically if you were in a geometry class, you know, in college, and you were studying like hyperbolic geometries, you could knit like a really big ruffle, like to kind of play with, to study the things on the surface for that. And I just thought that was really cool. That Laura should rename the ruffle a hyperbolic surface. And then I also did the other sleeve. I did not weave in this end yet because the perfectionist in me sort of wants to rip this out and try it again, just because it doesn't when I wear it, it lays perfectly and looks nice, but how I knit it, my tension was maybe a little tighter on the bottom of the sleeve than on the top, and so it kind of like sucks in a little bit when I'm holding it like this, and that's kind of like, when I look at it, it bothers me. Then when I put it on, it just lays totally fine. So then I'm like, ripping out mohair is not fun, so I'm trying to decide if I want to redo that or not. But meanwhile, I've moved on to the other sleeve, and as you can see, I'm nearly done. I have nearly all my ends woven in, and I'm nearly done with this. So I probably honestly just have about an hour's worth of work left on this. And I have all these balls of yarn because you hold 2 strands of mohair together. And then I like to alternate my skeins since it's hand-dyed yarn. So I have about 4 balls of mohair going. And I will have plenty of mohair to finish this. So the yardage provided was really accurate for my size. Because I was having like the most epic time test knitting the Souffle Tea, I knew that I wanted to test knit another sweater immediately. Like, I need test knitting sweaters in my life because this was just pure joy. So I applied for another test knit, and I wasn't able to participate in that one, wasn't selected. That's fine. And then I, maybe about 2 months ago, had on Ravelry requested to be added to like the earburn list for test knits for Tammy Gore. So on Thursday of last week, 2 weeks ago now, was the Rose City Yarn Crawl. And so Thursday of the Rose City Yarn Crawl, I was notified that I would be able to test knit the Lonnie top for Tammy Gore. And I just felt like that was so exciting. Like, everything happens for a reason, because like my Soufflé test knit is wrapping up. I'm looking for another one and I have it. And I was getting ready to go to the Rose City Yarn Crawl, so I used it as an opportunity to buy new yarn for this test knit. And I show this kind of stuff in the haul, but just in case you didn't watch that video, I did get this bag. It's from Earl Grey Fiber Company, I think. I don't know, actually. And there's a cork bottom, and these are roses for the Rose City Yarn Crawl. And on it, I have a pin from Twill imprint that's like teacups, and it says "Sip Sip Knit." And if you've watched this podcast before, then you know that sometimes I have a segment called Sip Sip Knit. And so I did not know that Twill imprint had a pin that said that. So I was super excited and wanted to get that. I put that on my bag. I love it. Okay, so the Lonnie test knit is in here, and I'll show you the yarn first. So I'm using this pale pink with this hot pink. So this hot pink color is Life in the Long Grass. And it's a single 100% superwash merino. And this pale pink is from Suburban Stitcher. And it's a silky single, so it is 70% merino, superwash merino and 30% silk. I will say this, I was initially very excited that I got this silky one as the contrast color because it's silk and it's shiny and it's soft. It's so soft. And oh, the hot pink color is called Lush. I forgot to say that. But having started to knit this sweater, silk is very slippery for color work. And so if I could go back in time, like, I think I would not have picked this. It's the softest. I think it's really, really good for a shawl or like a stockinette or a textured sweater, but maybe not for color work. It's working out though. So let me show you. I'll pop a picture here of what the tree Lonnie sweater looks like, because I'm at a point that it's like kind of tough to see the progress I'm making. Like, here's my color work. It's on tiny needles. So I love the way this hot pink is looking, because it's like, it's not variated, it's not speckled, but it is a tonal with some complexity to it. So it's not just plain hot pink. And in a way, sometimes this color work is looking as though it's like white and not pale pink against it, but that's okay, because you can see it. It's a nice contrast. When I was picking colors, I actually use my camera and I use the black and white filter to help me decide. Usually it's a nice thought, like if it has a high contrast in black and white, like, you know, it can give you high contrast when you're knitting, and vice versa if it's low contrast. So as you can see, I'm not super far along on this. I actually thought I was hoping to be, by the time I was podcasting, done with that sweater and split for the sleeves. I will say that I had to put stitch markers in. Truthfully, don't use stitch markers for my color work like this very often. Like, nearly I don't at all. I put a stitch marker every so much. I got these stitch markers, just so I know, in the Rose City Yarn Crawl. They're these sassafras ones. I pretty much don't. And I was thinking, like, why is it that I had to put stitch markers in here? Here's why. So basically, I think I've knit like 6 colorwork sweaters, like yoked colorwork sweaters. And all of my colorwork sweaters that I've made have been by Caitlin Hunter or Tin Can Knits. And in both cases of those 6 colorwork sweaters, they've had very easy repeats. So you can see here, it's like white space, image, white space, image. I've knit ones that had colorwork all the way across, but maybe the colorwork repeat was 8 or 12 stitches, meaning in the 12 stitches, maybe it's like 6 blue stitches, 6 white stitches, or 2, 2, 2, 2, you know, across. This sweater by Tammy Gore, it has long repeats. So it's not short little sections like this. They're much longer repeats than you'd expect, which makes it harder for me to memorize. And so I had to put stitch markers in. And I cannot tell you how much in this yoke I've been slower than other yokes I knit, and also have had to rip back because I've made mistakes. And so that's when I switched to using stitch markers. So I think 2 things have slowed me down with knitting this test knit, which are the longer repeats in the yoke and also using silk. I think if I, like, this is 2 singles, 100% merino, the green and the yellow. And like, I didn't have to worry about like the yarn slipping at all. And when the yarn slips, like, maybe I don't like the way a stitch looks, so I go in and I kind of like fix it. And so it's just, I'm going slow. The other thing that slowed me down is I'm using different needles. So I tend to use my Knit Picks interchangeable set, and for this sweater, you'll see I'm using different needles that are not as pointy and sharp as Knit Picks. I'm using these Licca needles, or Likey needles. I'm not exactly sure which one you say. And these are my husband's needles, his interchangeable set. Basically, I have so many sweaters on the needles right now that I'm a very loose knitter, so I need to use size 3 and 4 needles, US 3 and 4 needles a lot. And I ran out of needles. Okay, so that's a test knit almost done, and another test knit. This test knit is due, this sweater test knit was a shorter timeline than Laura's, so this one's due March 28th. So I feel like I really need to knit. I need to knit. Okay. So the other thing that happened before I hop into the third test knit, I'll share one more sweater. I'll just keep it sweaters and then hop in. I know that I've been working on my red neck cardigan, and I have a Scrappy sweater Makealong called Scrappy Sweater Along on Instagram, and there's a thread on Ravelry. I would love for you to join because it has been so fun already. Basically, the Scrappy Sweater Makealong kicked off on March 1st, and you could cast on a new sweater, whips were allowed, but any scrappy sweater was welcome. And I envisioned casting on a new sweater. Let me know if 5 sweaters on the needles is too many, or if I should. I still want to cast on another one really bad. But I refrained. I thought, I'm going to finish this one first and then cast on. And yeah, so March 1st was a kickoff, and it was kicked off with a Zoom night, a scrappy sweater Zoom night. And I posted the info in the Ravelry group and on Instagram, and I'm going to do that again. So this knit along will go from March 1st until September 1st, and we are going to have a monthly Zoom. So the first Tuesday night of every month will be a Scrappy Sweater Along Zoom. And we had such a fun time. So during that, I worked on this. And progress is almost negligent. If you've watched my other podcasts, you're like, this looks exactly the same. But here's this progress keeper. I basically knit that much during the Zoom night. And I'm like, you know what? Things ebb and flow. And so right now I'm focusing on those test knits. I love this. Maybe the momentum on this will pick up. If not, worst case scenario is I'm only working on this during those scrappy sweater Zooms. And I know a lot of people have scrappy blankets, and so I'm kind of like, maybe I'll just have scrappy sweaters the way people have scrappy blankets. And that's not a bad thing. I really am enjoying this so much. And yes, it's not done still. I started this at Advent time, but it's more than half done. And I love it. And it's going to be a really cool piece to wear whenever I finish it. So the last whip is basically my first design. I've shown this on the podcast, but I'm considering this a whip because this is a fingering plus mohair yarn held together, which makes a DK weight sock. And initially I had was like craving a textured sock, craving like a mohair soft cozy sock, and was just making this for me, but I decided to write it up. And last episode I asked for testers, and so many more people applied than I expected. I thought I would have to like start on YouTube, kind of go on Instagram, ask some friends, and I thought I would be lucky to get like, I don't know, 6. Because I wrote 3 sizes, and then I wanted people to do it in fingering mohair and also in just DK. And I've got all of that covered and more. There's actually over 20 people testing this now. And really, after I had the YouTube podcast up for like maybe 48 hours, and I had to close testing after that, I think, because I just getting too many people applying. And what a blessing to have. I mean, I did not expect that kind of support at all, and I could not be more grateful, and I'm just honored. So this feels like a whip to me because the pattern is a work in progress. I've already had to make 4 revisions to it, and so that's what's awesome about having so many people test it is I'm getting really good feedback to make it the best it can be. So these sweaters are named the Selena socks. And the reason why I decided to name them the Selena socks is I'm reading this book series called The Throne of Glass. You've probably heard me talk about it. And in the first book, you meet Selena, and I won't give too much away, but she essentially, that book series is sort of like a planned Cinderella. So she was opening scene, like she's imprisoned and she's in this situation where she doesn't get to read and be cozy with a book. And so she finds herself in a position where she actually has time to read. And you find out that she does like luxurious things, and you find out that she loves to spend time with books. And so I thought a sparkle mohair sock would be something she would wear. And these are definitely socks that I imagine wearing while cuddled up with a book. And so I can see Selena from my favorite book series like really loving to curl up with a book with these. And so that's how I decided to name them that. And so one of my testers just messaged today, and she said that knitting these socks is making her want to read that book. And I'm like, yes. I did not know that like knitting could be an avenue to help people read more. So like the Books and Beret Makealong, I noticed like my favorite like compliment in the Books and Beret Makealong was somebody said, I'm kindling my relationship with reading, or I'm reading more now because of that Makealong. Like, I was like, that is amazing. That's the teacher part of me that's like, yes. And so, yeah. And yeah, so if somebody reads that book series now because of these socks, like, day made. That would be amazing. This segment is dream knitting. I want to talk about dream knitting. So for dream knitting, I pre-ordered this issue of Pom Pom, I don't know when, a while ago. And it showed up after like 2 or 3 days into the roasted yarn crawl. So after I had purchased some yarn and things. And so I didn't include it in my roasted yarn haul video because it wasn't part of the roasted yarn haul. And then no, if you are interested in the roasted yarn crawl video or haul, I made 2 videos and I posted those separate so that I don't have to inundate like my regular like episode channel with that. But I did not include this as part of the haul video because it was a purchase prior, even though it did come from a store in the roasted yarn crawl, which is Knotty Lamb. Anyway, when this arrived, like when I pre-ordered it, I knew that I loved the aesthetic of it, like probably everybody, and I love the patterns in it. But when it's arrived and I flipped through it, like, this is not a hyperbole, like, this is just facts. I would knit every single sweater, sock, everything in here. There's nothing in here that I don't want. Like, I love it. Like, this is my dream knitting, like this Pom Pom. And oh my gosh, I don't even know like how I will pick one thing to start. But I was just talking to my mom on the phone yesterday, and FaceTime. We were FaceTiming. I guess it was 2 days ago. I was just FaceTiming my mom 2 days ago, and she also ordered a Pom Pom. She purchased hers from Wild Hand. And there's 2 different sock patterns in here. And this year I got my mom a share pair from Mandy's Makings for Christmas. So I have a share pair set, and she has a share pair set. And so my mom suggested that we use our share pair sets to make a pair of socks in here, and I think that's a great idea. And there's 2 different socks. So this is one of the socks. This sock is called the Ravelry. I love the lines in it. It's beautiful. So this is the other pair of socks. It's like ribbed. I think either one of those would be good with the share pair. So it looks like they use mohair in them. So perhaps the other socks I showed would be better. I was like, are these mohair socks? I just did mohair socks. Yeah, so I don't even know where to start because these sweaters are just so amazing. So the cover sweater, it's beautiful. It's got this like lace yoke and then a ruffle. I love the ruffles. And I mean, yeah, that sweater is just so beautiful. And then, okay, I love this sweater too. It's like sheer and there's also like a dress version of it. Like I want to make that. Okay, I know that I can't show you every single sweater in here, but also I want to make this sweater. It's like got the balloon sleeves and then lace, and then the collar on it is like everything. It's like a collar with like little ruffles around it. Or scallops. Like I love it so much. I mean, okay, I'm literally like in this sweater and this sweater. I mean, okay, one last sweater, one last sweater. This one is just like pure art. Like I need to do something like this. I've never done intarsia, and I'm assuming that has intarsia in it, and it has a very like artistic view. And so, yeah. I was like, I just want to like start at the beginning and work my way through this. Okay. So with the Rose City Yarn Crawl and with this, like I feel like spring is on its way. I'm building up to the giveaway here. And so yeah, this is a very, all the spring vibes. When the Rose City Yarn Crawl comes, I always associate that with like normally it's a very busy time in my life. I'm on sabbatical now, but normally I'm very busy in the semester, and it's this like great time to like take a step away and make time for myself and like have fun. And then usually spring break's around the corner, so I like get to knit with my yarn over spring break. And so I'm having these spring things, which makes me want to share something springy with you. And also I'm feeling very grateful. I'm feeling grateful by all of the support to this channel with people who subscribe and also people who volunteered to test knit. Like every time you comment or send me a message or like a video, like it truly means it means so much to me. I really, really appreciate it. So because of that, and also like the gratefulness of like even getting to go to the Rose City Yarn Crawl, I mean, with everything happening in our world, like it's such a privilege to be able to do that. So I'm feeling very grateful. So I've decided to give away some yarn from my stash that's really nice. I haven't knit with it yet because as you can see, I want to make everything, and so I don't always make time to make everything. But I think I keep my yarn in bags like this, tucked away. So I'll try to stop crinkling so I can show everything. Okay. So I have this awesome yarn that's really nice for spring and summer. It's Broco Cambria, and I've knit a shawl for Matilda's doll out of it, so I have knit something tiny out of it. It is 60% alpaca, 20% linen, and 20% lyocell. And so it's definitely like, I mean, soft alpaca and linen. And it's this like creamy kind of oatmeal color. Let's see if it has a, anyway. I have, look how much I have of this. I would say it's close to like a DK weight. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skeins of this, and they are 50 grams each. So that's 250 grams of this. Okay. And so that's going to be the giveaway. And I think what motivated me to think about this is that I've had this in my stash now for almost 2 years. Like this spring, it'll be 2 years, and I've still not knit with it. But what this would make is an epic like tank top, if you're into that. And I know Stacy from Stress Sense Yarn is hosting a tank-along or something like that. And I know Anna from the Bluebird Box, she has a beautiful tank top called like the Kennessy tank top. And there's like Jessie May Designs, she has some beautiful tank tops. So like, depending on your size, this could be enough to do one of those tanks. Size independent, so independent from size, like this is definitely enough to do a beautiful spring or summer shawl. And yeah, and I feel like I just input a lot of yarn into my stash, and that's such a privilege. If you watch my Rosie Yarn Crawl vlog and hauling, you'll see that I'm blessed to be able to do that. But so I guess I just wanted to share some love. And so I have this awesome set. So if you're interested in this giveaway, any comment below will enter you in it, and you can comment anything you want. However, my question for you would be, what would you make with this? And if you are interested in a knitted tank top, let me know which one you would knit. I think that's been sort of my kind of hesitation with knitting a tank top. I think Anna's tank top, the Kennessy tank top, I think it came out last summer. And I think that was like the first time I felt like motivated to knit a tank top, because her tank top was like, I felt like it was something I would wear. Whereas some tank tops that exist that are designed just maybe aren't my aesthetic, like aren't something I would wear. And so, yeah, I would love to know what you would knit with this. Or did you get the pom-pom? Are you making anything out of this pom-pom? Like, I can't even. So the Professor's Pearls are where I share reflections that relate to my teaching life, my professor life, and my knitting life. So about 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my friend Eloise, and she wanted some help with her Love Note sweater. She was splitting for the sleeves. And so she and I got on FaceTime, and we were reading through the pattern together. And as we were reading through the pattern, she was like, I know how to do that, but I just don't understand why I'm doing that. And in that moment, when she was splitting for the sleeves, when the pattern told her to like slip stitches and cast things on and continue in the round, she knew how to do each of those isolated things. Like, she knew how to slip stitches, she knew how to cast on, she knew how to continue knitting. But all that together, like, she didn't know what that had to do with like making sleeve holes. And that made me realize in math, like when you're teaching math, we often talk about different types of knowledge. So we talk about factual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and conceptual knowledge. And unfortunately, in the United States, there is an overemphasis on factual and procedural knowledge. And So for instance, factual knowledge in math would be like 6 minus 6. Like you just know that's 0. Like you don't have to think about it. Just somebody says 6 minus 6 to you, you just know it's 0. Or 2 times 3, you know it's 6. It's just a fact to you. Whereas a procedure might be a set, like an algorithm or some steps you follow to make something possible. So for instance, let's say you were thinking about 112 minus 95. Perhaps if you were doing 112 minus 95, you might have an algorithm that you would use. Like in the United States, we often use a decomposition algorithm, or what people call borrowing. 112, I'm going to borrow from the 1, and or something like this. And like that would be a procedure that you're implementing. But the conceptual knowledge piece, that's the why. Like when you are borrowing in 112, when you're borrowing that 1, like why are you doing that? And for instance, people not from the United States, they might not subtract that way. They might subtract with something called equal addition. So when I'm saying borrowing right now, they're like, what? We don't do that way. That's not the procedure we use. So those steps in your procedure that you're taking, like why do they work? Why do you do them? Or like 112 minus 97, maybe you could think of that on a number line. Like here's the number 112, here's the number 97. How far are they apart? And that would be the conceptual knowledge. And so that's something in my own teaching and research that I think about a lot, is those different pieces of knowledge we need, or those different structures of knowledge we need. But I hadn't really thought about it with knitting until I was talking with Eloise. It's like here she has strong factual and procedural knowledge. Like she knew the symbol K means knit. She knew BOR, like those are facts for her. She had the procedural knowledge of being able to read the pattern and could just follow it and do it. But she hadn't yet got to the space of like the conceptual knowledge of like why or what that was. And so I grabbed my Love Note sweater, because we were on FaceTime, and I showed her, okay, when you're slipping your stitches, it's this part of the sweater. When you're casting it on, it's this part of the sweater. And when you continue on, like it's this part. And it was like a light bulb for her. She was just like, I get it. I know why I'm doing it. And as soon as she knew why, she just did it. She didn't even need my help anymore. That was the FaceTime call. It was just me explaining why you do those procedures to make an armhole. And that was really cool for me to kind of connect those things. It was just really beautiful to connect to realize that factual, procedural, and conceptual knowledge in math is actually something that we do in knitting. And so a question for you is like, what were those, like, have you had a light bulb moment? Like, have you had a moment where you were like, with knitting? Like, was there something that you had struggled with, but once you understood why you were doing it, like you could do it? I would love to know what that was. For me, recently, it was this ruffle, which I've spoke about in the whips. I really understand the construction of a ruffle now in a much better way, as it is a hyperbolic surface. And I'm not intimidated by it because I understand not only like how to make it, but like I think I could make it on anything now, like a sock or any sweater. It's really opens a lot of doors to understand that it's just a hyperbolic surface. So yeah, tell me about if you've had any of those moments with knitting.
Right?
What's a one and done situation? Like recording one time and then being done? Or one and done, like you're
all
never
the above.
Never doing this again?
Yeah.
Oh. blueberries fit in here.
Squeeze again.
A little squeeze them. Okay, surprise.
Sausages.
This is Sip Sip Knit. Excited to be here.
Happy Tuesday.
Oh, it is Tuesday. So what I really wanted Kyle to be part of Sip Sip Knit, not necessarily regularly, but sometimes, because he's the coffee expert.
Yeah, coffee's my thing. Never used to be. Now it's very much so.
So let me hold this up. There's our coffee we're having.
Today I made a pour over in the Chemex.
Okay.
And it's our coffee from trade coffee, but specifically from Reanimator Coffee Roasters this month.
So with our trade coffee, we get a different coffee. Is it every month?
Every 3 weeks.
Oh, every 3 weeks.
They're pretty flexible. You can get it as often as you want.
I was going to make a joke that we don't get it often enough because we were in a pickle last week where we were out of coffee.
Yes, we were. Occasionally that happens.
And my mom got us a subscription of coffee.
Yes, from Caravan.
Mm-hmm. And then Kyle got this. We have 2 coffee subscriptions and we ran out of coffee. Yes. And Matilda and I, it was actually a week ago today. It was on Tuesday. Or was it Thursday?
Thursday.
Yeah, and Matilda and I were like running around town trying to find a nice coffee. Like actually, like not metaphorically running around town, like actually running. So yeah, this is from Columbia. It says they get the tasty notes of marzipan, Bartlett pear, and sugar cookie.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's yummy. Is this what we had this morning too?
No.
I was gonna say this tastes totally different.
This morning was the other one that you bought at Chapters.
Oh, the bespoke.
Yes.
Mm. Okay.
And that's a roaster out of Corvallis, I believe.
Oh, okay. Do you remember the bespoke is out of Corvallis?
Yeah.
Oh, has anybody that watches this been to Corvallis, Oregon? It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. We should go hiking there sometime.
Yeah.
All right. So for the trade coffee, like we have a coupon code, isn't it like $3 off or something?
I think so, or maybe even your first bag free if you sign up for a subscription.
We get $3 off.
Yes.
That's what it is. If you use the link, we get $3 off of our, because we need more coffee.
And the new customer gets a free bag. I believe,
yes, that's it.
Their first bag
okay. Free. All right, so that's the sip sip part. Ready to talk with the knit cow?
Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Kyle drinks his coffee black, which is really funny because when we first started dating, you didn't drink coffee at all.
Nope.
0 to 180 there.
Prior to 2007, there was no coffee going here.
Yeah. Before we dated, you didn't knit either.
No, I did not.
Now you knit. He's not as big of a knitter as me. Like.
Yeah, I haven't finished many projects since Matilda's been born. So
yeah.
Finished a sock. Really close to finishing the second one for a separate pair, but yeah.
Yeah, before Matilda was born, I think you got a lot more knitting done just because we would go to the pub and knit together.
Yeah.
And so it was like
very
social.
Scheduled knitting.
Yeah, it was like, and that was mostly when you knit. You knit when you watch TV though too. Things are just
occasionally.
Yeah, things are just not. I mean, even I find like I struggle to get knit stitches in. I'm just more dedicated to carrying it with me everywhere I go.
Yeah. When I'm being the chauffeur, she's knitting.
Yeah, accurate. So we thought we'd share one of Kyle's old projects that he's made.
Yeah, this is a blanket I made Matilda. I don't remember the pattern name.
I usually don't either.
But it's
it was a free pattern, wasn't it?
Bamboo Pop, held double-stranded.
Oh yeah, so the yarn was called Bamboo Pop. And so you held 2 strands of it?
Yes.
I can't even tell. Here, let's hold it. Here, I'll move my coffee and we can hold it up closer to the... Hold it closer to the camera. Yeah, so it's a leafy lace pattern.
And I believe leaf is in the name of it, but I don't know for sure.
I'll Google it because I think was it free? Do you know the pattern?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And it, I think I did 2 repeats of what the pattern said, so it's bigger than than what it was originally designed. But,
And when did you knit this?
for Matilda's birth, so not long before she was born, but I don't recall exactly.
Yeah, isn't that, can you imagine being a child and getting a hand knit blanket from your dad? I just think that's the sweetest. And so we have some, I'll have to find them, maybe I can pop them in here. When we got newborn pictures of Matilda done, we had her posed with it.
Yep.
But this is well loved now. Well loved. I mean, so bamboo pop, can you wash and dry it, Kyle?
I am not sure.
You've washed it, I thought.
I'm not sure about it in the washing machine. Hand washed it.
Oh, you've hand washed it.
It's been washed so infrequently that by hand is
Yeah. But it's well loved. And she doesn't sleep with this anymore. She used to sleep with it. It was like the perfect size for like a car seat and a stroller ride. And so we would do that a lot. But now it's mainly a blanket that she plays with.
Yep.
Mainly because she has so many blankets.
Yes.
She's the blanket queen.
Yep.
There's a character in this book series she likes called Princess in Black. It's Princess in Blankets. And I've really thought...
Which one? I don't remember which number.
Is it book 3 or 4? I don't know. Princess in Blankets is introduced somewhere in the middle of the series. And I'm honestly surprised that Matilda hasn't found more of an affinity towards that character. It's not like her favorite character. And I'm always like, how is she not your favorite character? Because this girl loves blankets. And you're the blanket queen. So anyway, just thought we'd share that for Sip Sip Knit.
Oh.
Would you knit another baby blanket, you think?
Yeah, probably. I'd probably even consider doing the exact same pattern. It was nice variety with the lace, but then not too complicated.
Yeah.
I really like the yarn too. It's, I don't know, soft but durable.
I saw a bamboo
It's a
pop.
pretty nice drape to it.
It does.
It's not like, I don't know, it's got a nice weight to it.
I saw
for a blanket.
I saw bamboo pop on the Rosie yarn crawl, but I can't remember what store I saw it at. Because I remember seeing it, being like, "Oh, that's Matilda's blanket," and I like got video footage of it, but I couldn't tell you what store. Anyway, well, thanks for joining us for Sip Sip Knit. Comment below if you think Kyle should return, because if the people want him to return, maybe he'll come back.
Yeah, we'll see.
I am going to switch to full personal mode, just sharing personal things. So if you're not here for that, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to share some personal things. I sometimes start my personal section by sharing things I've read or that I'm reading. And so I thought today it might be fun for me to share some books that I've been reading to Matilda, just for a sort of change. We, in 2020, before the pandemic hit, we had started a goal of reading 1,000 books before kindergarten. And so when the pandemic hit, we continued that goal, even though we weren't turning them into our library, because our library had actually shut down. And we, with everything that happened, hit 1,000 books really quickly. And so then I quit recording, because writing down 1,000 books in a journal, it took a lot of effort to write. And so I stopped writing down books. But then I was like, I actually have no idea what we're reading or how often I know we're reading to Matilda, but I wasn't tracking it. So at the beginning of February, Kyle and I decided to start to try and get another 1,000 books in before she turns 5, which will be, I can't believe it, end of November. So in February, we read 100 books. And so I think that's basically what we need to do. We need to read about 100 books a month to get another 1,000 books in. One of those books we read this month was a book I checked out from the library that's called Sweater Weather. You can see there's little knit stitches there. So you can see a theme. I'm going to share some children's books that have some knitting in them. what I actually really liked about this book is that one of the main characters is this dad bear, and the dad knits, and my husband's a knitter, and so I like it that there was a male character knitting in this. There's not a lot of words in it. It's basically like sweaters on, sweaters off, like kind of situation. But it has beautiful illustrations, and I really related to a lot of the scenarios in here. Like the little bear saying that they don't like one of the colors, or they like this color. Taking their clothes off and needing new clothes all the time. Anyway, another book that we like to read to Matilda that we own is called Extra Yarn, and it also has beautiful illustrations. It's not necessarily about knitting, but it does have yarn in it, and the illustrations are gorgeous. So here's some pictures. Some people are wearing sweaters. It's just pretty. And it also doesn't have it has more words in it than the other, like more text, but I like reading things that have knitting in them. Maybe Matilda sees me knitting all the time, but I like reading her things that have knitting in them. Now, although I read those books to her, I would not say that those are her favorite books. Right now, she has a favorite series, and it's called Princess in Black. We have books 1 through 7. We've checked out book 8 from the library twice. They're hard to get from the library. There's like a waiting list. We've gotten book 8 twice. There's a shelf there called the Lucky Day shelf. Like these hard to get books, sometimes they have extra copies of them and they put them on the Lucky Day shelf. And so that's where we've gotten that. Matilda, she was so funny on the shelf for people that like request books and wait for them. She like saw the 9th Princess in Black book there, and she just went over there and grabbed it. And I was like, because it had somebody else's name on it, and the librarian's like, "What you doing?" And I'm like trying to explain like book holds to her. I was like, good eye for seeing that 9th book. Anyway, I have a request put in. I don't know how long we'll have to wait, but anyway, Princess in Black, basically she's Princess Magnolia by day, and then she goes on this shoot and she becomes Princess in Black, and her main sort of thing in all the books is that she's protecting the goats because these monsters from Monsterland come and want to eat the goats. And in a way that's kind of nice because, you know, kids at nighttime with monsters in my bed or under my bed, like monsters like to eat goats, not people. So that's good. And anyway, and they're all like, they're cute and funny, and they have lots of illustrations in them. And so anyway, Matilda loves this book series. She doesn't really understand that like you can just read one. Like you can just take number 7 and you can just read number 7. So like seriously, she'll want like grab her stack of Princess in Black books and wants to start at 1 and go all the way through. And if I'm like, let's just read number 7, it creates this spiral of like needing to read all these other ones. And anyway, so I've been trying to find other series that are like Princess in Black. So like a longer book with like chapters, more text, but it also has illustrations, so it's not just text. So if you have suggestions on that, please let me know. Some people suggested Mercy Watson, which is like the main character is like this pig, and she liked it, but I mean, she didn't like love it the way she loves this series. What's the other one? We're also reading this book series called Mindy Kim. She does like that one a lot, but it doesn't have as many illustrations. And then we're also reading Junie B. Jones. I think she liked that one. This is just her number 1. We're just not finding one that's like as comparable. And she definitely gets her love of series from me for sure, because I'm reading this book now, which is A Court of Wings and Ruin. And honestly, like, it's so good. Even though I'm not very far, and I said I was reading it last time, I mean, these books are long, and I'm also reading other things, and I'm reading The Night Circus. Yeah, so that's kind of the reading situation. In terms of like things we've been doing, 2 weekends ago was a roasting yarn crawl, and yeah, so I have a vlog if you want to see what our weekend was like. The whole weekend's on YouTube. So the weeks have been just going by so fast, I feel like, and this past weekend was just another amazing weekend, and I kind of had this really epic thing happen, which is I was a high school math teacher for 5 years, from 2005 to 2010. And during that time, I had a student, Jordan, and she and I like kept in touch, like, goodness, from like 2010 to probably 2013, 14. We would ride bikes together. Like, I was into road biking, so we would ride our bikes like 20 miles together. She was also training because she rode her bike from New York City all the way to LA, and like across the country. I think she did it in like 70 days or something like that. And so we would ride our bikes a lot together, and we ran a few half marathons together. I think we ran we ran other races together, like 10Ks and things, but I think we ran our first half marathon together in 2012. Anyway, we kept in touch. And since then, she's become a medical doctor. And like I mentioned, I live out in Oregon now. So, I mean, that's quite a ways from where I used to live in Illinois, that's where I was her teacher. Well, she was a doctor out on Mount Hood for a ski competition out here. And that is not that far from me, so we ended up hanging out, and I got to meet her boyfriend Marshall and his dog Match, and we had like the best weekend. I don't think I've had that much fun with friends. I can't remember. I literally can't remember. It was so fun. We went hiking, and it wasn't like a big hike. Like, we didn't go somewhere in Portland. We did something out here. I had Matilda, and I knew they wanted to also go wine tasting out here, and I wanted to take them to one of my favorite wineries. And so I knew that, like, to go hiking and go to a winery in one day could be a lot. And so we did kind of a low-key hike. But while we were doing this like low-key hike, like, they were so sweet with Matilda and like playing hide and seek with her. And it can take a lot for Matilda to warm up to people, and like, it can take a lot, but she just like started talking to them immediately as though they were her best friends, and it was so good. And their dog was so nice and gentle, which is just so important. It was just nice to have a very calm, sweet dog, like, that she could be safe around and like have an experience like that. So yeah. And what else? Oh, and we had Thai food and just like hung out here at my house, and yeah, it was just the best time. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. It means so much to me. Thank you so much for watching this, and yeah, thank you. And I hope you have a fabulous week, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.